Hello, my name is Mel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to tell you about my favourite books of 2024. I'm still very much trying to define what it is I actually like in books and what my favourite books have in common. Much like the guy you dated when you were 19, don't really want to put a label on it. Don't really want to label myself as a romance reader or a sci-fi reader or whatever. So the list is a little all over the place and it's just the things that I enjoyed. So if any of these spark something in you that say, oh, if you enjoyed this, you should definitely read this, please let me know. Right, so in no particular order except for number 1, I'm going to tell you the 7 best books that I read last year. This is my personal opinion, not necessarily those with the most literary merit, but the ones that made me feel something, the ones that made me read ferociously, the ones that I still think about and still come back to. So to start off, we have Dune by Frank Herbert. Now, do I need to explain the plot of Dune to you? Probably not. Spice, political intrigue, war, complex themes, sci-fi vibes. Love, love, loved it. Honestly, this is not something I ever expected to love as much as I did. Like every other man and their dog in 2024, I saw the second Dune movie and I wanted to read this before I did that. And I was so shocked how much I loved it. I love Frank Herbert's writing. I love the way he explores all the themes in it. And I love the plots within plots within plots and how everything links together. I love the setting. I just really loved everything about this. I wouldn't have thought so, but I really, really enjoyed it. I went on to read Dune Messiah, and then I've bought the 3rd book in the series, which I hear it goes completely off the rails there, but something I'm definitely going to read in 2025. But I don't think anybody needs a recommendation for Dune, but I really loved it. If you've never read it before, give it a go. Like, the audiobook's pretty good as well. My husband read it purely on audio. I read it purely physically. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. I love it so much. Then we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. I am an Emily Henry fangirl. I am, in fact, like all the other girls, and I love that for me. I would say I definitely, growing up, read mostly romance and fantasy and dystopian because, Hunger Games generation. But Emily Henry is the only one who can pretty consistently give me a romance that I will definitely enjoy. And Funny Story is up there with Happy Place and Beach Read as my favorites amongst hers. This one's about Daphne, who moves to a new town with her fiance. So she's, doesn't really have a community, is away from all her close friends. And then her fiance decides, actually, I think I'm in love with my girl best friend, so peace out. So in this town where she knows no one and has nothing, she ends up rooming with Petra's ex, Miles, and, it's a romance story, so you can kind of figure out what happens from there. What I love about Emily Henry is her characters, the banter between them. Writing is my number 1 gripe when it comes to romance books. By 2 chapters in, I can tell if the writing style is going to annoy me, and, I DNF a lot of romance books. But Emily Henry always delivers for me. I really, really enjoyed this. The balance of romance, but also personal character growth, and all the side characters I really loved. Again, underground author Emily Henry really needs my recommendation, but I loved it. If you've never read Emily Henry and you like romance, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Next is Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I absolutely devoured. So I read The Secret History, and I didn't like it that much, which I feel like the minority amongst most people. But I definitely liked the vibes of the dark academia, but I wanted a little bit more fantasy out of it personally. So I read Babel, and it was everything that I wanted it to be. So we're following Robin, who is Cantonese, and the book starts off where he's getting sent all of these books from this anonymous benefactor, and his mother and everyone around him is dying of the plague. And then this anonymous benefactor comes in to save him and whisk him away to England, where he's been groomed to go to Babel in Oxford, which is the school for translation, because in this world, translation plus silver produces some form of magic. And so we're following his journey and his cohort's journey going through this school of translation, starting off being so amazed by all this amazing stuff they can do, and slowly realizing how they're actually being exploited and how it's being used for colonialism and racism. And I've seen the people who don't enjoy this book don't really like how heavy-handed the theming is, but I think it's perfect. It's something I really enjoy when themes are really hammered home to you. She really sets up the characters in a way that you get to the end of the book and you kind of know where it's going to go, but you're still devastated for it anyway. Like I said, this is my first R.F. Kuang. It's definitely not going to be my last. I love her writing, and please let me know what you think I should read next from her if I loved Babel. Okay, next let's go with Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. This is a tongue-in-cheek, fourth wall breaking, murder mystery set in the mountains in Australia. So we're following our main character, who is a mystery writer and is recounting these events to us of being at this family reunion in the mountains and explaining, how everyone in my family has killed someone. So it starts with, my father, my brother, me, all that kind of thing. And the narrative voice of this is brilliant. It is so funny. It is very much, looking directly at you and giving you a little wink. It's like, in a mystery book, I need to introduce you to all the suspects by XYZ pages. So I've got this many pages to go, so make sure you're writing them down. It's just really, really excellent. I think such a fresh take on the genre. If you read a lot of murder mysteries and are kind of getting bored of them, I highly recommend this to you. Also, love that it's an Aussie author, and we'll definitely be picking up the sequel from him. Okay, now we have Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Contemporary fiction tennis story, kind of rogue, not something I thought I'd be interested in. Can't say I'm a mega tennis fan, but I will watch it every year when the Australian Open is on. We're following Carrie Soto, who is a tennis player who holds the record for the most number of Grand Slam wins, and there's this young player who's coming up and is about to break her record. So she can't have that, so she comes out of retirement and trains so that she can, go back on the circuit and maintain her record. And that's kind of it. It's a character study of her, following her journey as she's training and going to all these tournaments and realizing the mistakes and the sacrifices she's made throughout her career to get to where she is, but also realizing what she wants from life now and what is her life without tennis. And I feel like anyone who has a lot of their identity in a sport or a hobby or something that they're really good at, I think those themes are explored really well here. But yeah, I really love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing, and I'll definitely be picking up more from her. Okay, almost there, almost at the end. We have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I think we link both books together, the first and the second I read last year. And when I tell you the vibes, they were just so good. I haven't really read any, quote unquote cozy fantasy. I don't know if this falls into that category. I love the whimsical setting, all the side characters, the kind of episodic nature of it, where we're following Emily, who is a professor who studies fairies and is writing her Encyclopedia of Fairies. And so she's on this field mission to try and document the fairies from this certain region. And along with her is Wendell, who she's never really liked that much, who everything kind of comes a little too easy to him. And you'd hardly call them enemies, but there's a bit of tension there. And so you're basically following them and how they interact with the townsfolk and how they interact with the fairies and on all these missions. And it gave me like Magic Faraway Tree vibes, the sort of episodic nature of going on the little quests and, to these magical lands. I love Emily and Wendell's relationship. I mean, you can barely call it romance. It is a little bit romantic, but it's, slow burn. This is one I definitely can see why people don't enjoy it. It's not like completely low stakes, no plot of what I understand cozy fantasy to be, but it's also not high stakes, high fantasy, deep magic systems, things like that. But it was the perfect balance for me. I love the first one and I love the sequel. First one maybe a little bit more than the sequel, but yeah, highly recommend Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And finally, my favorite book of 2024 is Project Hail Mary. Amazing. I read this very early in 2024, and even now in January 2025, still think about it. Still think about how much fun I had reading this book. Still think about the relationship between the characters. Still think about the humor. It is the perfect book for me. So we're following Ryland, who wakes up on this spaceship. Both of his crewmates are dead, and he can't remember why he's here, how he got there, or how he's going to survive. So that's the main story, is him trying to figure out what he's doing and how he's going to survive. And then we're flashing back on Earth, what has led up to this event of him being there and his Project Hail Mary mission. And the convenient memory loss sometimes can rub me the wrong way, but I love the way it was handled here. I thought it was great the way the story unraveled for our character, the same way it unraveled for us. And this is science fiction, underlined, bold, italics, big box around it. A lot of what he's doing is, using the instrumentation on this ship to figure out what's going on, collect samples and do experiments to try and help with the problem that's happening on Earth. And as someone who studied science myself, I loved it. I loved that whole process. Is it the most believable that he is able to do all of these things? I don't know. I don't care. I had so much fun. It is very daggy, nerdy scientist humor, which I can understand why some people wouldn't connect with, but I loved it so much. And my favorite part of the book I can't tell you because it's a spoiler, and the way that it is revealed and happens together is the best part of the book and the most fun. So if you know, you know, but one of the relationships in the book I love. So good. If you know, you know, and if you don't, please read this book. I love it so much. I've heard that it's kind of just a copy of The Martian, but I haven't read that, so sounds like I'm going to love The Martian as well. Put it on the list for 2025. But that is all. That is my favourite books of 2024. If any of these remind you of a book that you think I might enjoy, please let me know. If you have a channel and you have your favourites video, please let me know. I'd love to connect with more of you in the community. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.